Sir, I would like to take this opportunity to pay my respects and to express my appreciation for the very valuable comments that have been forthcoming from the honorable members. Despite the lateness of the hour, the number of participants that we've had in this very rich discussion and the substantive points that have been made all lead me to one conclusion, which is that one or two honorable members apart, one or two exceptions, the House, both individually and collectively, has widely welcomed the proposed amendments. Having said that, I also want to submit to you, through you, sir, that some of the comments which have been made are comments with which I can agree, including those forthcoming from the honorable members from the opposition. But I think those comments have been made because the provisions of the bill and the prevailing practice, including personal experiences, are not fully understood. So I will take this opportunity to respond to each one of the comments made, and I seek your indulgence, sir. I know that you have been extremely gracious with the time that you allot to us, and therefore, but let me start by saying, naming the honorable members who have participated: Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, Shri Parvesh Singh Verma, Shri Kalyan Banerjee, Shri Raghu Ramakrishnan Raju, Shri Pinaki Mishra, Shri Nama Nageshwara Rao, Madam Supriya Sule, Shri Rajendra Gawatji, Shri Janardhan Singh Sigriwal, Shri Janardhan Sigriwal, Shri K. Rama Mohan Naidu, Shri Shankar Lalwani, Shri M. K. Premachandran, and Shri Rajiv Rudi ji. Sir, let me start with the Honorable Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who has welcomed the thrust of the amendments, but then he proceeded to say that the bill does not quantify the damages payable. And my first submission, not only to the honorable members, but the others who've raised this point, the bill does not need to quantify the damages, because the damages are quantified elsewhere. There is an office memorandum which clearly spells out the rates at which, the types of accommodation and the rates at which damages are to be charged. Well, I'm coming to that precise point. If you look at the figure cited in this office memorandum, and the one which is currently operative is one dated 7 September 2016, well before I became a minister, in fact, a year before that. And my first reaction when I saw this office memorandum, sir, was precisely the point that the honorable member, Shri Pinaki Mishra, makes. What happens is that if you have a low base level, and if you're paying a rent, I would say hypothetically for 100 rupees a month, or let's say even 1,000 rupees a month, and then you are charged 40 times or 120 times, then the amount payable is significantly lower than what you would pay for accommodation of that quality in the market. So that point is well taken. However, there are safeguards. If honorable members do not pay, then before an election, they have to come to the Directorate of Estates to seek no objection. Otherwise, they cannot go and file their nomination papers. And that's where some corrective comes, but that's rather late in the day. But I take the point, and I want to tell the honorable member that on my own, I have been saying this office memorandum should be addressed. One of the ways it will be addressed is through the amendment which is coming in now. But I think we may need to look at this. This is something I will examine as we go along after this amendment is passed. Shri Chaudhary also raised one or two other points. He said the notice is after the extension period. Absolutely. But let me make another submission. So far, the operation of this system, the Public Premises Eviction Act, and the notices which have issued, and very other honorable members have spoken. Shri Premchandran, if I may be allowed to jump the queue a bit, he said, why 3 days? Why not 30 days? Sir, that is precisely my point. The 3 days period is being brought in, and one other honorable member said this is draconian. In fact, it is intended to be less so. The then government of the day, and I'm not naming a party, in 1994 brought in an amendment which did not have even a 3-day period. So when my attention was drawn to this and the legal team was sitting and said we should follow the example of 1994, and I submitted then that no, we have to give an opportunity, and that opportunity must resonate in natural justice. People must be provided the opportunity. Now, when we had a 7 days notice period, we ended up people 10 years taking us into litigation. 10 years, that is the amount of period. The issue here is not 3 years, 3 days or 7 days. The issue is different. That 3 days notice period will be given only after the director of estates has satisfied himself or herself that all other margins of persuasion have been exhausted and that the party concerned is not. Let me give you the example of the current situation. The Lok Sabha election results were declared on 23rd May. Strictly speaking, on 25th June, all honorable members should have vacated. We did not issue a notice to any one of them. We are now past 25th July. Now routine notices have started going. All these acts or all these powers are exercised in the most humane of ways. So the 1994 example, which was actually draconian, we deviated from that. Now I come to the examples. The honorable member said, sir, that he is pent up, he has pent up fury, and he wants to ventilate that. I deeply appreciate that, because that gives me an opportunity to try and place on the record of the House what the real situation is. When an accommodation is allotted on vacation basis, let us say I issue a notice to Shri Rajiv Rudy. I did not in his case, I could have.
Why?
No, that's a separate issue. We'll come to that in a minute. Damages will not accrue. No, I think the House has a great opportunity for us to make a few statements. Let me explain. It's a hypothetical example. I don't mean him. Hypothetical, yes. Hypothetical, but you can draw inferences from there also.
Name is fictitious.
Your name is fictitious.
Name is fictitious.
But let me explain. It's very easy to get up in the House and start making suggestions. I will try and play the same hypothetical game. If a type 7 accommodation, which is with some member, is sought to be allotted by us to another honorable member, we do not expect the person who is in present occupation to vacate it till an alternate house has been allotted to that member. Now, in the case of Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, it seems what's happened is that the C1 accommodation, which must have been type 6, because he was earlier in a type 7 accommodation, that accommodation was said to be free, but when you went there, the honorable member went there, it was not case. I think there is a slip-up there. And I try to ensure as minister that no such slip-up takes place these days. In fact, I personally monitor this along with my team of officials. I would be very happy to speak to the...
Was forced to stay outside.
I totally appreciate that, and I would be willing to sit down with you. I would be willing to listen to the exact narration of events which you have given along with dates. And if you have been charged something which I think is unreasonable, I assure this House I will personally move a note to the Cabinet Committee on Accommodation that those charges should be restituted, that you should get them back. If this is the case, you will sit down with my team of officers. Because we need to ensure that representatives of the people who come representing the sovereignty of the people are given a fair share here. So I can assure you on that. Some members of parliament have, at least I have developed a thick skin and a sense of humor. So I would refrain, I would say that none of us have our... but I will sit down with you. Insofar as all the other personal members, personal issues raised, I'm going to skip those, but I wanted to make this point. Anybody who has a personal grievance on any issue, please feel free to come to me. Yes. We will look at them. Those are not policy issues. Those are not issues which are germane to the consideration of this bill. Yes, Shri Pravesh Sahib Singh Verma mentioned the many instances when senior leaders of my party, of which I am a proud member, vacated their accommodation immediately on the results being declared, or when the circumstances which led to that accommodation being no longer warranted. I was delighted that Supriya ji mentioned the tradition in Maharashtra. I associate very closely with that state for reasons which I think many of you know, and I think those are the highest traditions. But the culture of impunity in which we have been operating, that seems to be that once you have got an accommodation, dekhi jayegi. Aap notice issue kare, hum dekh lenge. I have also had people who have come to me and said, मैं इसलिए vacate नहीं करूँगा, क्योंकि अगर मैंने vacate कर दिया, तो मेरी जो छवि है, वो कुछ गिर जाएगी. The idea is to change some of these things slowly but surely. Pravesh ji also mentioned the need for establishing an SIT. I think that is his proper suggestion. I want to assure him there is an SIT already. That SIT has been formed by the government. I was somebody who encouraged it. It operates under the DDA. It looks at encroachments to public property, and it files a report before the court in terms of the hundreds of square meters, kilometers of public space which has been encroached. I also want to take this opportunity to jump again a little to mention the coverage of the Act. Some question was, does it apply to government servants only? Does it apply? Sir, we are dealing with two separate issues here. One is the Public Premises Eviction Unauthorized Occupation Act of 1971. This applies to all public premises, this act. But the amendment that we are bringing in today applies only to residential accommodation occupied by government officers and members of parliament, etc. The issue was raised insofar as the judiciary. Is any judicial disrespect meant? Absolutely none. Honorable members of the courts also occupy, but they manage that themselves. And I have not come across a single case where a retired judge of the High Court or the Apex Court decides to stay in the accommodation. Because they manage this themselves, as soon as his lordship or her lordship vacates, it is allotted by them. It does not come to us. I want the record to very carefully reflect this. Now I come to Shri Kalyan Banerjee. I wish I could, in the spirit of cooperative agreement that we have around this table, I wish I could say that I agree with what he is saying. But I disagree with almost everything that he has said. Not because I disagree with him, and I want to look through you to him, not that he's any less attractive and a proposition to look at, but the issue here is we must get our facts right. Something about Gazette, whether the state offices are gazetted. I want to assure the honorable member that they are gazetted. Their names are gazetted. No, the honorable member said, no, we looked around, who are the officers? I can give you the names. All right, if not, I may have my limited understanding, I may not have. All right, I will send you, I don't need to speak to the honorable member. I can always send him copies of the Gazette notification, so this is not correct. But what I disagree with most vehemently is that he tried to criticize public officials, government servants who are not in a position to defend themselves in this House. And what is he talking about? His own experience as part of the House committee, along with another honorable member who and he said, and I take serious objection to this, he said those people were in illegal occupation because of my officers. First of all, let's get our record straight. Who gives accommodation to honorable members? Is it the Ministry of Urban Development? Is it the Directorate of Estates which gives accommodation to members of parliament? Question is appropriate. Answer is capital N, capital O. This accommodation is granted by the chairman of the House committee. In the previous house, it was Shri Suresh Angadi. Now it is Shri C.R. Patil in the case of the Lok Sabha, and Shri Om Mathur in the case of the Rajya Sabha. Now, it is very easy to be critical, Honorable Speaker, but let me explain one very basic thing.
करने लग जाओगे
नहीं,
तो
उन्हें
पूरा
एक मकान
5
की
घंटा लग जाएगा।
पॉलिसी इशू है। I don't think officers who are not in a position to defend themselves. Yes, I'm willing to enter into a public debate on that, but I will defend my officer. That's a tradition to which I belong. Now we come to damages. I have already said that damages are quantified, but the point made by the Honorable Shri Pinaki Mishra, that's all.
सबने आपके बिल का समर्थन कर दिया।
Are we carrying out a survey, routine checks? Let me explain that we are carrying out checks all the time. We know when somebody is in illegal occupation, but if we have a situation, Honorable Speaker, that an honorable member to whom house has been allotted, that honorable member has invited someone else to do, we will do that.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक पर विचार किया जाए। अभी माननीय मंत्री जी ने, एक मिनट सुनो, माननीय मंत्री जी ने बड़ा डिटेल तरीके से आपको उत्तर दिया है। आप एक मिनट मेरी बात सुनो, आपको और डिटेल उत्तर सुनना हो तो आप 3 घंटे वेट कर लो, सब उत्तर दे देंगे एक एक चीज का। कंक्लूड पहले सदन चाहता है कि इस बिल को पारित किया जाए, क्या मत है? प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक पर विचार किया जाए।
एक मिनट।
हाँ, कल्याण जी को बोलने दो एक बार।
You asked, Mr. Megwal Sahab was the chairman of that time House Committee. Regarding the please.
Conclude with 1 minute. 1 minute.
Bring the records.
आपको अभी मौका देंगे, अभी आपको मौका देंगे।
Bring the records and see to that what was the answers. What was the answers of your officers and what was the answer of the Judicial Secretary? That time Megwal Sahab was the chairman of the House Committee, not any other persons.
श्री जी, आज तो आपको परमिशन दे दी, अगली बार से सीट पे बोलना, ठीक है ना?
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू सर। सर, I just have 2 clarifications सर। सर, एक तो मैं माननीय मंत्री जी से जानना चाहता हूं, जो 3000 से ऊपर केसेस हैं जिन्होंने घर खाली कराने को किए हुए हैं, उनमें से एमपीज के कितने हैं? और दूसरा सर, एक मैं माननीय मंत्री जी से ये पूछना चाहता हूं सर कि कई ऑफिसर्स हैं, मैं नाम नहीं लूँगा किसी का, बट एग्जाम्पल दे रहा हूँ, चंडीगढ़ में पोस्टेड है, वो एक छोटा सा चार्ज दिल्ली में ले लेंगे और एक घर दिल्ली में ले लेंगे, एक वहाँ ले लेंगे। इसका भी कोई प्रावधान किया जाए कि ऐसे लोगों को जिनका काम ही 2 घंटे का है हफ्ते में, उनको दो घर क्यों दिए?
माननीय मंत्री जी।
Sir, I will conclude.
माननीय मंत्री जी।
Sir, I'm very happy, sir, to be smiling and concluding. But there are 2 comments, sir, which I need to make. I will answer this. I'll provide this clarification. ये पिनाकी मिश्रा जी ने कहा कि मैंने एक शब्द जो इस्तेमाल किया है, इंटरेस्टिंग, वो अभी है नहीं शायद उपस्थित, इंटरेस्टिंग है, और उन्होंने कहा कि ये मैंने इंटरेस्टिंग, उसने कहा ये डिस्पिकेबल शब्द इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए। ऑनरेबल स्पीकर सर, मैंने 45 साल एक और प्रोफेशन में स्पेंड किए हैं, डिप्लोमेसी में। वहाँ पे जब सबसे सख्त और कड़ी बात भी कहनी होती है तो किसी को धमकी भी देनी होती है तो कहा जाता है आई इनकरेज यू। जब सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल यूनाइटेड नेशंस की बम्बार्डमेंट अलाउ करती है तो ये नहीं करते गो एंड बॉम्ब द हेल आउट ऑफ द कंट्री, वो ये कहते हैं टू यूज ऑल मीन्स नेसेसरी। इसलिए मैं माफ़ी चाहता हूँ, मैंने एक सॉफ्ट वर्ड यूज़ किया, पर वो थोड़ी मेरी ट्रेनिंग वैसी है। जो ऑनरेबल मेंबर ने पूछा कि कितनी टोटल, मैं बता दूं आपको, टोटल डिमांड गवर्नमेंट हाउसिंग की है 77,199, इसमें शॉर्टेज है 15,416 की, और इसमें जो 3081 प्रिसाइसली, इसमें से कितने प्रिसाइज एमपीज हैं कितने, उसकी मैं आपको फिगर पहुंचा दूंगा। आई एम नॉट कैरिंग द फिगर।
ठीक है,
थैंक यू।
ये आपने जो 3 दिन की बात कही है ना, मान लीजिए किसी कोई मेडिकल इमरजेंसी रहे कोई जेन्युइन अगर रीजन रहे तो इसमें कोई बढ़ाने की कोई चांस नहीं है क्या?
आपको विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं आदरणीय मेंबर को कि ये जो 3 दिन का पीरियड है ये एक्सट्रीम में यूज किया जाता है। कब किसी के मेडिकल हो, जैसे मैंने आपको उदाहरण दिया, अभी जब 23 मई को चुनाव आए, लोकसभा के नतीजे आए, हमने 2 महीने कुछ नहीं किया, अभी भी कुछ नहीं कर रहे। अभी तो चेन्स बना रहे हैं कि आपको जो मकान दिया जाएगा, जो आपको दिया जाएगा वो खाली होगा तभी आप चले। आपको विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि मेडिकल इमरजेंसी और किसी किस्म की इमरजेंसी वो बात वहां तक आती नहीं है, और आती भी है तो हम कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑन अकोमोडेशन जाके स्पेशल डिस्पेंसेशन लेते हैं कि इन केसेस को इसमें इस तरीके से एविक्शन, ये ड्रैकोनियन चीज उस समय हुई थी 1994 में, तब ऐसे इंप्लीमेंट हुई थी। अब कौन था वहां पे मैं नहीं बताना ना, हमारे यहां तो बहुत सॉफ्ट तरीके से और ह्यूमेन तरीके से ये इंप्लीमेंट होगी।